All right. Welcome in, everybody. It's going to be episode number 15 of the Monty and Murdy College Football Show. Thank y'all for tuning in with us. Monty, what's going on, man? How are you?
Man, sad day. Sad day in college football.
Sad day.
For those who don't know, Ben Herbstreit, Kirk Herbstreit's dog, trusty, not deed, but trusty companion of his. Obviously, if you're any kind of fan of college football, I'm sure you've seen Ben Herbstreit with Kirk Herbstreit on the sidelines or on the field or in the booth. So sad day, but if you're a dog owner out there, you know how it feels. And me and Murdy alike, we know how it feels, and it's sad, but it does happen.
Yeah, tough day for all the fans of ESPN College Game Day. Ben he's been a real staple of the show this season, especially as he's been brought along. Man, big week. I mean, we're kind of we normally don't get very political on the show. Just a lot going on in the country, and a lot going on in college football this week.
First college football playoff ranking.
Yeah, awesome. So for this episode, y'all, I mean, it's gonna be just like it always is. We're gonna break down some of the Week 10 recaps, some of the games we predicted for y'all. Then we're going to hit College Football Playoff Committee drop their new top 25. So we'll go over that, discuss some of the stuff, some of the things we like, some of the things we don't like about the new poll. And then we'll go through and hit our Week 11 predictions, and then we'll finish up, as we always do, with our dubs and duds of the week. Monty, let's go ahead and dive right in, man. We kind of first game on the slate, we had Maine coming to Norman, Oklahoma, take on OU. OU ended up getting a win, 59-14. Kind of surprising. I mean, that OU was able to actually score that many points. Figure that part out. I mean, I'm not saying that the differential there was too surprising for Maine. They're not a powerhouse school or anything by that means, even in the FCS. But I think this Oklahoma team was able to put together a lot of good drives, possibly build some good confidence for those younger players. Sometimes you just got to be able to see a shot go in, and I think that's kind of what this game may be for this offense going forward. Did you have any thoughts on the game? And whenever you're checking in, looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, it was only one thing, and kind of something I talked about last week. They were able to get the run game going, which is pretty cool. I think that definitely, and they probably, I mean, yeah, obviously the players are no dummies. They know it was Maine, but either way, I mean, they scored 59 points in the game against any team at the Division I level. I think it gives the confidence, a little bit more of a confidence boost for that offense, for that offensive line. Kind of something, maybe a little push that they need for the next couple games down the stretch. Jackson Arnold playing football, it's like, yeah, you take it with a grain of salt again because it's Maine, but you're giving these guys these opportunities, kind of gain their confidence back with Jackson Darnold and maybe that O-line as well. Defense really doesn't need a whole lot of that, but they handled business, and it's refreshing, I'm sure, as an Oklahoma fan, to see your guys take care of business like that on a Saturday. So massive game this week for y'all, but we do have that to talk about later, so I'll wait on that. But yeah, I mean, obviously a great outing for Oklahoma and a good refresher for the rest of the season.
Yeah, this was I think for Sooner Nation, this was a pretty good palate cleanser of a game, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
It's been a rough stretch. This game kind of got you a little fresh. Ever since Joe John Finley's taken over as the offensive coordinator, the run game has kind of improved. Javonte Barnes has definitely looked like he's taken a step. I mean, he had a 200-yard day on Saturday. Overall, in total, Oklahoma rushed for 381 yards in this game. So like I said, with that offensive line, how it's been, beat up all year, I think this was this is a very good opportunity for them to, hey, let's look at what y'all did right here. You know what I mean? You could beat up on them in the film tape, be like, you can only beat on somebody, so long before it's like, okay, they're tuning you out. They're like, we get it. I suck. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's good to show, especially younger players, hey, this is what you're doing good. this is what we want to see more of. And hopefully OU is going to be able to carry this into a big matchup that they got this week. As you said, we kind of touch on it, but yeah, not a bad win for Oklahoma, 59-14 over Maine. We'll see if they're going to be able to carry some momentum positively into this week. You want to go ahead and hit on the next game?
Yeah, we can talk about that one briefly. It's Kentucky at Tennessee. Obviously, Tennessee won that game 28-18. A couple of notes that I had on it. And I'm not going to continue to make excuses for this team. Obviously, Tennessee won. Like I said, not going to keep making excuses. I will say another rivalry game, so you just never know what you're going to get from the opposition. In this sense, it was closer than I'm sure other Tennessee fans would have liked, but that's kind of the story of the season with these SEC games for Tennessee. One positive thing that I'd like to mention, it was an overall team win, which was nice. I think that touchdown that Dylan Sampson scored at the end there, that broke the single season rushing touchdown record, program record. I believe it was 18. Trying to remember the year. I don't want to get it wrong for his sake. I think it was like 1892. It's been a record since 1892. He scored his 19th rushing touchdown of the season. That's the most in program history. But on that play, it was like a 3-yard run, but it was like I don't know if you saw it, but it was like a total scrum. Everyone was involved.
Even
and then
Nico.
At the end, you had Nico got in when it was pushing. It was very telling for what this team is, despite and I say despite the downs and the ups and downs, the valleys and the ups and downs. We're 7-1 now, right? Looking not too shabby, but a lot of close games. So it was good to see what this team, the heart that this team has. Everyone involved. But it's at the same time in SEC play this year, it's the same old story for Tennessee. I mean, we started slow again, right?
Yep.
UK went up early and get in the end zone. Finally, we did. Pass game is right there again. It's like, when is it gonna happen? I say it every week. When is it gonna happen? We could really blow the doors wide off, clear off this thing if we could just frickin' connect with the receivers, whether it be the overthrows or the drop. Right? It's starting to look more like the drops now than it is the overthrows, which is, I guess, more comforting, you could say, than it being just pure overthrows like the issues we dealt with Joe Milton in the past. But at some point, it's got to connect. Otherwise, nothing special is going to happen this year for Tennessee. But overall, Nico did have a great game. I mean, he threw for 296 yards, I believe, 295, 296, and a touchdown, right? And then Dylan Sampson, I'm not saying he's going to, but he's kind of creeping into that Heisman talk. It'd be pretty cool to see him in maybe in New York come that time. But he's almost at, I think he's like 20 yards away from 1,000. So he'll likely get that this week against Mississippi State. And then obviously the 19 touchdowns, breaking a 100+ year program record. That was pretty cool to see. So, like I said, overall good team win for Tennessee. I was concerned going into the week, and I had mentioned that Kentucky's defense is pretty stout. They showed that, especially early on. I think that the talent just kind of took over the game in the end, and then obviously with it being the blackout uniform, the dark mode uniform with the blackout, in the crowd, and it being a sold out home game against a rival, it's always going to be a tough place to win a game as the away team. But I'm also not going to make any excuses for Kentucky, but them going down, their starting quarterback, that Vandergrift going down, obviously didn't help them. But I think overall with that Tennessee defense, I always say it, national championship defense with a mediocre offense as of right now. And I think that defense was just too much for Kentucky in the end, especially without their starting quarterback at the helm. But like I said, great win for Tennessee. Tough loss for Kentucky, but as a Tennessee fan,
yeah, I mean, one thing I wanted to point out on this game, I think I texted you like early on in the first quarter, is like right whenever I flipped on the game, this was a heck of a uniform matchup. Just like, that's how I come in, just completely just watching the game, just to watch the game. The uniform matchup here with Tennessee with their all blacks, with the with the orange highlights all over it, and then Kentucky went with their all whites, blue with the silver helmets. I mean, it was a heck of, like, just looking at it, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a cool uniform matchup, absolutely. I agree with you, man. It was a close game. Watching it, it almost felt like Tennessee. I predicted Oklahoma might have the best defense in Tennessee, or best defense in the SEC this year. I think Tennessee has clearly earned that right. They've been the most consistent defense. They've been there every week. There's not really been a week where you looked at them and been like, outside of maybe the Arkansas game, even then they still showed up pretty big there.
So no, yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? With that Arkansas game is we still haven't in the SEC. Knock on wood. I mean now they probably can do it, but haven't let up 20 points.
Exactly. So like even in a game that you're losing, the defense is still performing well.
Yeah,
I think they've earned the right to be that clear top-notch unit. And the offense, as I'm watching it, man, it's frustrating to watch. It's frustrating because if you see like the tight end, at the goal line, I can't remember which score this was on. I think Tennessee ended up scoring, but Nico drops back, throws it to the tight end wide open. He danced around a little bit, throws it to him wide open, drops it. He just drops it.
But so you understand what I mean though when I say like it's right there every freaking game, and it's like if it just connects finally, like and if we're waiting for the Georgia game, okay, great, I'll take it. But it's like to feel more comfortable about the season, it's got to happen.
Yeah,
and it's got to keep happening.
And then it's like, and then I watched I think it was the very next drive. Kentucky, I'm pretty sure they went 3 and out. Nico got the ball back. He drops back. Brew McCoy breaks down the sideline, and then you see Nico put it up, and it's just like, it's like 2 yards too far out in front of Brew McCoy. He's got like 5-6 yards on the DB. You know what I mean? It's like he's gone. And
hell, even that one over the middle to Chaz Nimrod, and he just freaking dropped it. Like, and it was a tight window. Nico freaking put it on him, and it was just a drop. Like, and there's a whole different argument when it comes to Chaz Nimrod and Mike Matthews, the true freshman, 5-star true freshman that we got. That's a different argument. But Chaz Nimrod was a 3-star guy that we got a year or two ago, and it's like it's these things just connect, whether it be whether it be the overthrows or the drops, they both seem to consistently happen in every game. Every SEC game, at least. Yeah. It's like, neither one is mutually exclusive. Like, it's like, it both happen every single game. So,
but part of it when I'm watching is like, the flashes are also there. I think, man, there was one throw that specifically stood out to me that Nico made when I was watching this game. I believe it was maybe a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. He was dropped back there on the lined up on the left hash. He drops back, hits a 10-yard out. Puts it right on the sideline, like a really, really tough throw to make. Because it's like if you leave it flat or you leave it low, it can get turned back into a pick six real quick. Defensive back can undercut it. And he put it way out front, put it right only where his receiver could catch it. It's like right on the sideline. It's like a 30-yard throw easy. Because he's got to clear that whole hash and then maybe 40 because he's got to go 10 downfield. But it was just, it was an incredible throw. And I'm just like, it's there. It's just hit or miss sometimes. It's finding that consistency. And they still have time to do it. There's still time to round and form for Tennessee. But you see the potential just flashing every now and then. And you can see the painfully obvious times of when it's like, why is this still happening? Why is this still occurring?
Right. Oh yeah. And it's like, as a fan, it's like you don't, what is Heupel, and you can't even say what is Heupel not doing to fix it, right? I'm sure he's doing everything because at the end of the day, it comes down to execution. Yes. Right. You see that the scheme is there, so it's nothing that Heupel's not doing. Yeah. That he's putting the plays out there. We just I don't know what the disconnect is between Nico and the receivers, and they're all very close to each other. They all know Nico's the guy to all the receivers, and most of his receivers are way older than him, but they all know he's the guy, and they trust him. It's like, and Nico trusts them obviously with the plays that they're running and the downfield balls that he's throwing and tight windows he's thrown into. But it's just like, I don't even want to call it like a disconnect anymore. It's just like it's these stupid mistakes that keep happening, both on the receiving side and on the quarterback side. And it's like you can see like when things go right, how quickly this team can score points.
Yep.
I mean, we were down, or I guess it was 14-10. We were up 14-10, and then all of a sudden we score 28 points. 28-18 is the final score, right? They end up getting one of those late touchdowns. But it's like when this team wants to score and follows through with the scheme, it's like doors wide open. And obviously this defense, like I've been saying on and off the show, this defense is a national championship defense, and I feel bad for them because it's, probably not going to happen this year, unfortunately, and then we're going to lose a lot of those guys. But yeah, but we've been talking about this game for a while, so if you don't have anything else, we can move on. I can keep going.
Yeah, no, that's really all I got. I mean, it's not, you can't really say that Heupel's sitting there, he's not coaching these receivers like, hey, when you go out there, I want you to drop this ball. Like, that's not what's happening. It's almost like a case of the yip.
Yeah, and then that's the thing, right? Like the play calls, like we've had some play calling issues in the past this season, but the big play calls and the stuff, at least in the past, like 3 games, like they've been pretty good. Plays have been there. It's just the execution.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and transition to a team that did not execute very well this past weekend. Texas Tech went to Ames, Iowa. Took on Iowa State. Texas Tech ended up winning 23-22. Late fourth quarter game. Monty, what were your thoughts watching this one?
Yeah, well, my dad started to let me talk to him about this one. But it's kind of the same. It's very similar to. It reminded me of Tennessee's loss early in the season to Arkansas. Iowa State defense kept them in this game, kept giving their offense opportunity after opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to just go down and score. And I get it. The weather was gross. I mean, it was a raunchy, grinded out game on both sides. But like I said, Iowa State defense was giving them every opportunity to go and score, and it just wouldn't happen. And you saw that. And I think it's the tail of the season for Iowa State. Granted, now they were one of the undefeateds, no longer with this game. But the offense is, as we saw, the offense is the demise of this team. But that's nothing new from the Iowa State fan standpoint that probably a lot of people don't know, because Iowa State's historically not a football school. That's been a thing for a very long time. That historically, that's always stout Midwest defense and an average offense. It's always been the thing. It's the same thing as Iowa. That's why watching those games is always a lot of fun. It's like a lesser Army Navy game when it comes to how the game is played, the style of football that's played. And with this game, with Texas Tech, with the quarterback being hot, and I warned everyone about that quarterback. I warned everyone that he was gonna be, and then that Taj Brooks in the backfield. He's like number 6 in the country in rushing yards, total rushing yards this season, something like that. Don't quote me, but he's top 10. That you can quote me on. And I think that offense ended up being a little too much. They basically played the same game, right? Texas. I don't want to discount anything from the Texas Tech defense because they also played a great game, but I just don't think Iowa State's offense is very good. Whereas I do think Texas Tech's offense is pretty good, and I just think Iowa State's defense is that good. But obviously, yeah, winning or losing by 1 is always tough. I was watching that game. It even hurt me as a long time growing up Iowa State fan. It sucked to see because the promise in the season, which it still is. There's still a chance they're not out of the Big 12 race. Obviously, it throws a wrench into things, but they're definitely not out of it. It was a tough game. It was a fun game to watch. it was definitely a fun game to watch. But man, yeah, it's a tough loss for the Cyclones.
Yeah. When I was watching it, I mean, yeah, I know you mentioned that the Texas Tech defense. I don't think they might not have done anything special, but I also think they played their best game possibly of the year in this game.
Probably.
I mean, you're talking about a defense that gave up 50 to Abilene Christian. It's like that.
Yeah, what was it? 56-55 or something like that?
Yeah,
that final score, something like that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think they either went to overtime or it was late fourth quarter.
I have a buddy that went to Tech, and when that was their first game of the season. For those who don't know, Texas Tech's first game of the season, and after that game, he was like, because they were supposed to be good, just like last year they were projected to be good. That didn't. They're supposed to be better this year, and that happened, and he was like, I don't even know what to say. Obviously, it ended up being better than that, but to your point.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody's been scoring on this Texas Tech defense, and that's kind of what I think. If you asked any Iowa State fan if they were able to keep this Texas Tech offense to 23 points, most people are going to say, "Hey, tell me how much Iowa State won by," because nobody really saw that Texas Tech defense being able to contain Iowa State's offense, even though it's not the strength of their team. They just haven't really stopped anybody all year. So the fact that they were going to go into Ames and do it this week.
Yeah, and I don't make, again, I'm not making an excuse for Iowa State, but I will say I'll give a benefit of the doubt here just a little bit. That the weather definitely did not help. But it is football, and you have to be able to adapt to those kind of things. And Iowa State, of all teams, I would assume would be able to, but they didn't. So,
did you see the field goal in this game? The widest right field goal of all time.
And you wanna know what I thought about when I saw that?
Yeah.
You know how hard it is to kick a field goal in NCAA 25, the video game. And I was like, I was one of the biggest critics when it came to kicking field goals. I'm like, it is way too hard to kick a field goal in that video game. That's not realistic. And then that happens. I was like, that really just does not help my point.
I mean, the thing about it is, if we're comparing that kick, I've seen much better kicks on game day. I think even the Duke fan who kicked remember for the Duke game where the guy he kicked the ball and it hit the guy in the face right along. That was even a better kick than what this was. I mean, it was so far right, it was ridiculous.
That was a tough one to watch. It was a tough one to watch. As a loose Iowa State, I wouldn't even call myself a loose Iowa State fan, but as a kind of Iowa State fan, it was a tough one to watch.
Yeah, I was sitting there watching it, and I was like, that was terrible. That was terrible.
It doesn't help my argument when it comes to the video game being unrealistic.
Yeah, no, definitely doesn't. His stadium polls had to be out of this world.
Home crowd.
Home crowd. All right, let's go ahead and roll on to the next game. Pitt went to SMU. SMU ended up winning 48-25, and this game was not even as close as what that final score indicates. SMU jumped on them early.
Yeah, and I'll start only because I'll be honest with you, I didn't even get to watch much of that game, and I didn't have time to watch the highlights. I will say I predicted it completely wrong. After watching the Pitt Syracuse game and how well their Pitt's defense did, and how resilient throughout the season Pitt's defense was, and how well oh man, I'm blanking on his name, of course. Eli, what's his face?
Holstein.
Man, thank you, Holstein. How well he's been playing as a young guy. I was like, man, they really can. They really do have a chance. And I mean, they were one of the undefeateds, right? So I really thought that they could at least put up a fight. They did not do that. But it also goes to show you now with Clemson losing this past weekend to Louisville, it's like is SMU like the second in command in the ACC behind Miami. Like that'll be an interesting game. And Miami gives up a lot of points, and SMU scores a lot of points.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that you got to start, churning in your brain. Now that we saw that, they took it to Pitt like that, and Pitt was one of those teams that was like maybe coming up. It'll be interesting to see for the ACC, but I'll let you talk about this game.
Yeah, man, everybody, including myself, we kind of wrote SMU off a little bit at the beginning of the season whenever they struggled against Nevada. Following that, they also lost to BYU in Provo,
which turns out to be a good loss.
Yeah, it turns out to be a very good loss. I mean, one of the better losses in the country, if you had to pick them. And ever since then, SMU has just been playing really, really good football. Granted, their defense has still been giving up a lot of points, but, they didn't in this game against a very dynamic Pitt offense. I mean, SMU was up 31-3 at halftime, and they came out, scored the next possession with a field goal, and ever after that, I mean, they got up 48-11, and then after that, they just pretty much pulled everybody and said, "Hey, we're going to coast it out here." So Pitt scored 2 late touchdowns with the backup quarterback. But SMU, I think, I would say they were probably right there. I mean, after defeating Pitt, as far as you look at the ACC, I'd say it's them and Miami. And if I was Miami, I don't know if I'd want to play SMU just with how Miami's looked, They've played a lot of close games, and it's, hey, how many times are you going to, roll the dice until you finally get caught up on something? So, man, SMU Kevin Jennings, we'll see what it looks like. The rest of the schedules are not too brutal for them. Following the Pitt game, they do have play Boston College, which Bill O'Brien's got Boston College playing some pretty consistent football. They haven't lived up to what they were thinking to be after they beat Florida State. But then they follow up with Virginia and then Cal, and then they're looking at being undefeated in ACC play, playing for that ACC championship. So we'll talk a little bit more about SMU whenever we cover our top 25. So let's go ahead and roll on to what was the matchup of the weekend. Ohio State went to Penn State, ended up getting a win 20-13. Monty, what did you think watching this one? Early kick on this one, early kick.
Yeah, 11 a.m. Central. We both noted, I saw your notes before going live. I noted it as well. Obviously, absolutely should have been a night game. I think it did. I think they did. Penn State, huge disservice there. But it is what it is. Still got to play football, right? And it still was a sold-out game. And you're watching the game, you could see it was definitely sold out. It was like 111,000 something. It was like the most attended, highest attended game there in Beaver Stadium ever or something like that, which is pretty cool. In the aspect of the game, man, Penn State did it again. James Franklin did it again. I mean, I
told you.
It's not a bad thing necessarily. I mean, as a Penn State fan, yeah, I'd be pretty pissed, but you beat the teams you're favored against, you lose to the teams that you're not favored against.
Yep.
That's what happens.
He's consistent.
That's what happens, and that's what happened. My only thing about it is that Penn State, this game specifically, Penn State lost to a bad performing Ohio State team.
Yep.
Ohio State didn't play a great game.
Ohio State came out and gave them every opportunity they wanted right at the beginning.
Well, and they were up 10-0. Penn State was up 10-0 with a pick six. At home, sold out 111,000. Like, Ohio State did not play a good game, and Penn State lost. They scored 6 points on offense. Penn State did 6 points on offense with a defensive touchdown and lost at home as the number 3 team. Look, it's one thing to just lose to Ohio State when you're not that good, but when you're the supposed number 3 team in the entire country and you got a sold out game against the number 4 team in the country,
at home,
you got to play better. Yeah, you got to play a better game, and they didn't. But I mean, that's kind of what we expected, and that's what America expected. And Penn State fans hope not to see, and they saw it. So yeah, as a Penn State fan, I'd be pretty pissed. But for the rest of America, it's like, well, yeah, kind of figured that was going to happen. What now for Penn State? Well, what's going to happen? I guess you could say this is kind of an opinion, a projection of mine, but I think it's pretty. I don't want to say set in stone, but high probability. They're going to take up a playoff spot. and they're going to take a first-round exit. And I guess if you want to call that my hot take of this week, that's fine. I'll have that be my hot take. But I really don't think that's hot of a take. They're going to make the playoff, probably, unless they I think they're favored in the rest of the games for the season, though.
Yeah,
so,
they are.
Yeah, so they'll probably win the rest of the games, right? And then they'll go into the playoff and they'll play a team that's whether they're better than them or not. It really doesn't matter, and they'll probably lose in the first round. So I think that's what's in store for Penn State. Which, hey, first year of the 12-team playoff, if you can make it, I don't even know if Tennessee's going to make it. So any Penn State fans out there that do listen to our podcast, probably not, but if there is, and they're going to be like, Monty, see, we made it, your team didn't. Fine. It's like a waste of a spot, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Let Penn State end the season.
Yeah, it's just you can't expect to win a lot of games whenever in the second, third, and fourth quarters you put up a total of 3 points. No matter how good of a start you had, if you put second, third, and fourth quarter, you put up 3 points.
6 points total on offense the whole game. So
yeah, but I was trying to exclude. It's like, hey, you had a hot start, and then what'd you do after that? Nothing. You didn't touch anything.
Well, and so if you think so, right? You said 3 points on offense in the second, third, fourth quarter. Their first 3 points were on their opening drive.
Yep. So after that, they had 3.
Yeah, the whole game at home.
Yeah, and you can't expect. I mean, they were 3 for 11 on third down. That's just simply just not going to get it done, especially when you're playing a team as talented as Ohio State. No matter
and
how
they didn't play a good game.
No,
they didn't play good.
But the thing is Ohio State, they're talented enough. They're going to, no matter how many times they shoot themselves in the foot, eventually, if you don't do anything, they're going to start scoring points.
But my point is like, imagine if Ohio State played Penn State like they did Oregon.
Oh yeah,
you're talking 31-13, 38-13.
Mm-hmm.
41-13 maybe. I think this is all hypothetical. This is all hypothetical what ifs, but they didn't play a good game and they won.
That might be the most frustrating part for the playoff committee in this one, is that Penn State played just good enough to be like, oh, they're still good. And it's like, when really this game was not even close. The points Penn State scored, Ohio State pretty much gave to them.
Losing by 7, right? To a top 4 team, they're going to give them that, but and that's fine. I guess I think that Penn State is still a top 10 team, maybe, but maybe at the 10 spot. I saw something the other day. It was like, for now on, no matter how many games Penn State wins in years to come, this year, whatever, you keep them at the 10 spot, and you don't let them into the top 10 or the top 9, I guess, until they beat Ohio State. But you keep them at 10. They can go 12-0 or 11-0 if, say, the last game's Ohio State. They're still 10 until they can beat Ohio State. Then they're allowed in. But I mean, that's kind of the story of Penn State football. James Franklin's not a bad coach. He recruits well. It's not as good as Ohio State. He has his team play well, just not as well as Ohio State. And they're consistently in the top 10, just not in front of Ohio State. So
it just doesn't seem like he's one of those coaches that can, scheme up something or figure out a way to raise his team to close a talent gap. Penn State's the more talented football team. They're going to go in there. They're going to execute. They're going to win. But if Penn State is outmatched, whether it be on any, if there's a disparity or disparity in talent, Penn State's going to end up losing that game. He's just not going to figure out a way to scheme them open or, scheme some stuff up, get them to get an upset. It's just kind of is what it is. So let's go ahead and roll on, man. Let's hit our, the college football dropped their initial top 25. So prior to this, all our prior episodes, they've been covering the AP top 25. I do not care anymore about the AP top 25.
Yeah, no longer matters for the rest of the season.
And no, it's an irrelevant poll. This is what we're going to be focused on. College football top 25. When you're looking at it going through, it's pretty predictable for the top 5. Oregon number 1, Ohio State number 2, Georgia 3, Miami 4, Texas 5. Then you got Penn State checking in at number 6, right in front of your Vols. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I told you I felt about that earlier in the week. I guess I have a couple notes for that top, really top 7, I guess. So first, what I don't like first is Ohio State over Georgia. The reason why I don't like that is because it sets a new precedent, whereas the old playoff, the 14 playoff, when the playoff committee was doing the rankings for that, they used to go off quality wins over quality losses. They just set a new precedent where quality losses matter more than quality wins, because Georgia has the quality win over Ohio State, but Ohio State has the quality loss over Georgia.
Yep.
Georgia beat Texas. That's a quality win. Ohio State lost to Oregon, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Ohio State, lost to Oregon, and Georgia lost to Alabama. So they're saying that because Ohio State lost to Oregon and Georgia lost to Alabama, Ohio State's the better team.
And what's Ohio State's best win?
Well, that's the thing. They don't really Penn State, right? So It's like Penn State or Texas, right? What's the better win? I would argue that beating Texas is the better win. Most people would. Most sane college football fans would argue that. So it kind of sets a new precedent. Do I think Georgia's going to be in that 3 spot very long? No, but I'm saying they'll go basically where Ohio State is. I'm not saying they'll drop down unless hopefully Tennessee beats them. But that was kind of one thing that I did not like. You were going to say something though, so I'll let you say something before I go to my next point.
Well, I think the committee whenever the committee in the past is they've really weighed their own rankings very heavily. I mean, that's really all they decide is like, hey, if we decided this is a top 25 team or this team is, whatever. I think they looked at it as Ohio State having the win over number 6 Penn State and Georgia having the win over number 5 Texas. They viewed that as kind of similar. They said, well, that's number 5 team, this is number 6 team. What are we talking about? And then they went and looked at it and said Ohio State lost to the number 1 team and Georgia lost to the number 11 team. If you just want me to explain the process, that's what I feel like they decided is just.
Well, right. That's a new precedent.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying. Because Georgia beating Texas, right? At the time, Texas was number 1. At the time, Penn State was number 3 when Ohio State beat them, right? So it's like, it's obviously not. Sorry, the dog came in.
It's all good.
I don't know. It's in the past. What I've noticed is that it's always been quality win over quality loss, but it's different now.
Yeah.
Another thing I was gonna talk about, which this stays consistent with that quality loss for the committee's quality loss over quality win. Tennessee at 7, Penn State at 6, Texas at 5. Texas and Penn State both have the better quality loss over Tennessee. Tennessee's losing to Arkansas. Tennessee has the better quality win over Alabama, which is looking less now, but still a quality win, right?
Yeah.
Because Texas and Penn State, who have they played that they've beaten? That's quality win.
Well, that's kind of a part of it I was going to bring up was, when I'm looking at Penn State's schedule, it's why are they over Indiana? I mean, Indiana hasn't really beat anybody, but it's like Penn State hasn't beat that.
Undefeated.
Yeah, but they're undefeated. And Penn State, who have they beat? Illinois?
Yeah. And this is going to sound biased because I'm a Tennessee fan and people know that, but this is all honesty, as unbiased as I can say it. Tennessee, as of now, should be over Indiana just because of quality, strength of schedule, really. But quality of wins. Quality of wins. Despite Indiana being undefeated, just because Indiana hasn't played the opponents that Tennessee has. But I'm also saying that Tennessee should be over Penn State and Texas by the old standard, by the College Football Playoff Committee old standard. What now they have clearly shown, at least this week,
quality loss.
Quality loss is what they're going by. So interesting, but as long as it's consistent, I mean, you can't really argue with it. It's just I'm a big proponent. I'm not just saying this just because, right? because I hate Georgia more than most teams, but I do believe that they should be over Ohio State. I'm a big proponent of quality wins over quality losses. Like I don't think teams should get rewarded for losing. I think they should get rewarded for winning.
I mean, the logical argument of that makes sense. I think it's really just what do you value? What do you put more weight on it? Who a team lose to or who they beat? I mean, I think anybody could go out there and put out a stinker. If your quarterback goes and throws 3 interceptions, it's like, well, crap, we're going to find ourselves in a dogfight. I mean, look at Notre Dame; they lost to freaking NIU.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And have since turned it around, and it seems like they're blowing everybody out right now. But
what I'm saying is that same team that's blowing everybody out right now was the same team that ended up getting upset at home to NIU.
Oh, 100%. No, 100% agree. I'm just saying, I guess, when I'm trying to say, like, you shouldn't be rewarded for a loss. Like, Ohio State is literally being rewarded for a loss over Georgia loss. And I think that wins should be the more important thing. Like, you should be rewarded for wins and you should be punished for losses. But, like I said, obviously that the case now, is your quality loss over quality win.
Yeah, Georgia will probably have another chance to get another quality win this week, which we'll touch on here a little later. Going through, the next thing that kind of stands out to me is once you get through the top 10, is going to be really it's that group of 5 contest.
Sorry, if we're moving past the top 10, I was only going to mention, I think BYU's too low. That's all I was going to say. But
so you'd say BYU over what, Indiana? Or,
well, actually, okay. So new standard, I guess, maybe not, but old standards. I'd put BYU over. I'd put BYU probably right at 5 because BYU is the only team in the top 9 that has 2 top 19 wins. Actually, I think at the time.
Yeah.
I mean
that SMU
K-State. Yeah. So top 19 right now. K-State's 19 and SMU's 13. And people could be like, "Oh, those teams aren't." Well, the committee obviously thinks they're top 19. So, and BYU's the only team with 2 of those wins, and they're undefeated. And they're a Power 4 team. So I mean, leading the Big 12. So if you want to give the Big 12 that respect to be a Power 4 conference still, and they have the most top 25, let alone top 19 wins, yeah, I mean, some could make the argument that they'd be number 2. I'm not making that argument, but I just think they're too low. Anyways, you were saying outside the top 10.
Oh, yeah, outside of the top 10, you got Boise State, led by Ashton Jeanty, number 12. Right there in the mix of, ACC and SEC teams, with Alabama at 11, Texas A&M, LSU at 14, 15. What's kind of interesting about how the G5 has worked out with that G5 champ looking at an opportunity for the college football playoff is we got Washington State, correct? They can still
Yeah, they're sitting at 7-1 at the 21 spot, right?
What I'm saying is does the Pac-2, does that conference champion still apply?
Not as an auto bid. That's why they call it the Power 4, right? Those top 4 seeds, and then the 5th seed being.
Yeah, well, so I'm saying, does that conference still? Does it even count? I don't think anybody.
As a conference, yeah.
Yeah, so like they could count as like a G5 auto build because there's 5. It's the 5 group. So like it's the top 5 conference champs.
Yeah, I mean, if Boise State were to drop another game, it looks like Washington State would be that next team.
However,
based on what I'm looking at.
Yeah, but Washington State's already got the loss to Boise State this year. Boise State's already beaten them. Army,
right? But if Washington State wins out and Boise State drops another game, it would be Washington State.
Yeah,
right. Based off this week's ranking.
Yeah, and then got Army checking in at 25. They finally made it. Barely made it in. I think they should be ahead of. I mean, you still got teams in this poll that they have no business being in.
I have a note. I have a note.
Okay, let's hear your note.
I noted. I just put I just put Mizzou.
Yeah.
Dot, dot, dot. Like, why are they still here? Why are they still here? I don't get it. Like, they finally were out of the AP poll
Yep.
because they're not good. And now then they make an appearance. I get, look, 6-2 SEC team. Okay, but what if they were 6-2 in the Big 12? Which, in my opinion, that's what the conference they should be in. But what if they're 6-2 in the Big 12? They have basically the same wins the Big 12 team would.
Yeah.
At 6-2. Like, why are they there?
And
Because
probably
they're
worse
SEC
losses.
team. Yeah, I mean they got their teeth kicked in against A&M.
Teeth kicked in against Bama.
They survived against teeth kicked in against Bama. They survived Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt's not ranked. And the committee had enough disrespect for Mizzou to put a 6-3 Louisville in front of them, but they wanted to rank him. I don't know. I don't understand this weird hype around Mizzou that like they had one good year, and then it's like this. Well, let's just keep them around. They're not good. They're not good this year. They might end up 10-2, and Mizzou fans will come screaming at me. Oh, 10 wins. Yeah, look at this game.
Exactly.
And any tough team they played, they lost to. So, anyways, that was my last note about it.
Yeah. So, like I said, I think it's a very good initial ranking. I think I showed you that thing where they compared the BCS to the college football playoff rankings.
Yeah, you did say that. It was like almost identical.
Yeah, almost identical. And I'm like, okay, so we did all this for the BCS to pretty much line it up. And it's like, can we not just do the BCS and take the human factor out of the equation? I don't know. We'll move on. We got our predictions for week 11. So I guess we'll start it off. We'll start it off right there. Speaking of your favorite team right there at number 24, you got the 24 ranked Missouri Tigers. You got the Oklahoma Sooners traveling into Columbia. Monty, I'll let you talk on this game first before I dive into it.
Yeah, and it's not to say that there's any bias against Mizzou. Yes, they left a bad taste in my mouth with their fans last year, but it has nothing to do with that. I really just don't think they're that good this year, and it drives me up a wall that they're still ranked. Anyway, obviously OU needs this win, right? This is your bowl eligible game, and I think you have Bama the week after.
We got a bye week, then we got to finish up the season with Bama and LSU.
Okay, so yeah, tough way to end the season, especially at the awkward record you are at 5-4. This is a massive game for OU. Very important game against Maine that you had. I think it was, like you said, the palate cleansing game. I think that's going to play a part in it. Did they ever say if Brady Cook was going to play this week?
He's listed as questionable on the injury report.
I think that'll be I was just saying, I think that'll be a big aspect of this game. Jackson Arnold, I think that with him back, I really think this OU offense is gonna do better than what they have, at least in the earlier parts of the season. And I think OU's defense is obviously way better than Mizzou's. Not a hate thing. This is the way that I see this game going. I am picking OU to win this game.
That's what I'm talking about.
If Brady Cook plays, it might be a little different. But as of right now, I think with him being, even if he does play, maybe with the questionability of his health, and Jackson Arnold showing that he might be the guy that they go with in the future. I think that OU will. I'll say OU will survive this one.
Yeah. So when I'm looking at it, right, I'm gonna go ahead and get it out front. G, I know you're gonna be listening to this, man. So G, you've been giving me a lot of crap all week. You said question about how bought in I am because I've predicted against OU the past couple of weeks. However, I'm with them this week. All right, I think since Joe John Finley has taken over as OC, you've seen the running game kind of come along. It started to develop. Jackson Arnold is getting more comfortable. And here's a big nugget I have for this one. OU is going to be getting back. Granted, they're listed as questionable, but Jackson Arnold has already he kind of probably put a little too much out there in one of his media reports, or whenever he's talking with the reporters, he said, it's really great to get Deion Burks back and Jalil Farouk back. He's like, this week, we got two of our studs back as a receiver position. So I expect both of those guys to play. Jalil Farouk hasn't played since week 1. Deion Burks hasn't played since early on in the Tennessee game. So with us getting those two star wide receivers back, Brady Cook's health for Missouri, it's questionable at best. If he does play, he's not 100%. So, maybe get a hit on him early, whatever. If Drew Pine has to start this football game, Missouri, the strength of this Oklahoma defense is their run defense. If you're asking Drew Pine to go win you this football game, it's just not going to happen. We saw him throw one of the most atrocious interceptions last week, and I just don't see Missouri being able to move the ball in this Oklahoma defense. And I think the offense, granted, statistically, if you look at it, because of all the early season games where they struggled, they don't look good. But since Seth Luttrell's been fired, early on the first half of the Ole Miss game, they were up 14-10. The running game looks like it's moving the ball good. In Maine, you saw the running game continue to develop. Jackson Arnold continue to look more comfortable. So I look for that to progress here. Missouri's defensive line, they rank about 50th in sacks, tackles for losses. So and that's even with Missouri's cupcake schedule. I don't think they're going to be able to stress the weak parts of this Oklahoma offensive line. So with that being said, I think Oklahoma can win this game, get to bowl eligibility, and I'm not predicting a blowout. That's not what I'm doing. But I think OU, they'll probably be in control for most of this game. Missouri might be able to hang around. If Drew Pine ends up starting it and Oklahoma loses this game, there's going to be some big question marks that need to happen in regards to the Oklahoma coaching staff. But I think they got some stuff figured out. I think they'll continue to make progress. I think they take a big step forward here going into the bye week, hopefully getting more players back after following that bye week. So give me OU.
All right, so we're both taking OU on game 1.
Yep.
I'll make this next one short and sweet. There's nothing I really have to say about it. Mississippi State travels to Knoxville to play Tennessee. Only a couple things. I'm not even going to go in depth. Tennessee's favored by 24, minus 24. I'm worried that they can't cover. I think that we can blank them with our defense, but I don't even know if we're going to score 24. That's all.
No, I think they'll definitely score 24. Mississippi State, they've pretty much been in shootouts all season, and that's in the games that they're close in. I don't see Mississippi State being able to score against that Tennessee defense. Like I said, I believe them to be the number 1 defense in the SEC and the number 1 defense in the nation. Statistically, they are that. Defensive efficiency rankings, they are that, which, it takes in, that's like a performance-based metric. I see Tennessee probably winning this one pretty handily. Hopefully in this game, Tennessee is able to get some things to connect on offense. It's like I said for the Oklahoma game earlier.
I hope this is our main game.
Yeah,
Maine game, main game for the OU main game.
Exactly. Sometimes you just need to see the ball go in the hoop, and hopefully Nico and that offense, this is that game for them. This is a little bit of a palate cleanser, and it just gives them some confidence to know that, hey, we can do it and we can execute at that level. So, yeah, give me Tennessee as well.
Oh, yeah, I'm picking Tennessee too, yes. Just the matter of covering, we'll see. Hopefully we can. All right, Colorado travels to Lubbock, Texas to take on the Red Raiders, the Fighting Red Raiders, Texas Tech. You put this one on there.
Yep.
This was an interesting one. One of those ones, it's Colorado's 22, 20?
21. Well,
21.
Actually, no, there are 20, 20 in the college football poll.
And Texas Tech is an unranked 6-3, obviously coming off a huge win.
Yeah, they're like fringe top 30.
Yeah. But nonetheless, for Big 12 to keep their Big 12 title hopes alive, both teams. So it's an interesting one. They both only have one loss. in their Big 12 standings, and the only team that's better is BYU, undefeated. Everybody else that in the hunt has one loss: K-State, Iowa State, Tech, Colorado. The Tech's defense can slow down the Colorado air raid. I think there's a serious chance. But yeah, so you talked about earlier that it's going to be easier said than done. Now, if they can pressure him and get him pressure Shedeur Sanders and create turnovers, like they did against Iowa State, there's a chance. At the same time, right, with Tech's defense, as you said earlier, being pretty consistently bad, Colorado's defense is pretty bad too.
Yep.
So Tech can definitely still win this game. They just need to run the hell out of the ball, and that quarterback needs to continue to play lights out, virtually lights out. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think that with the win against Iowa State, Texas Tech's going to have a pretty wild environment in Lubbock.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might be the difference. I'm going with Tech to win this game, but I would argue that this game could be a pick'em game and a shootout.
Yeah, I see this one being a shootout, and then when I look at the two teams' rosters, you gotta go with the guys. It's like, hey, who has the most NFL players? And Colorado has probably, two guys that are going to go top 10 in the draft following this year, with Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. I think Colorado's offense is going to be able to expose Texas Tech's defense, where Iowa State wasn't able to.
My only thing, and I forgot to mention this, my only thing is that with Texas Tech's run game being a huge factor, if they can keep Colorado's offense off the field longer,
yeah,
that'll be a huge aspect of this game. But anyway,
yeah, Texas Tech can, like I said, they're ranked 10th in the conference, and as far as rushing offense. Now, granted, they were able to find some stuff. I think it's kind of stuff they struggled with early on. They were mainly just throwing the ball all over the yard. Hopefully they can continue, because Colorado, that's the weakness of their defense is their rushing defense. They're ranked 79th in the nation. So, yeah, that is an avenue for Texas Tech to exploit. Colorado hasn't ran the ball very well. They're mainly throwing it. They're one of the worst rushing offenses.
It's good. I mean, that's because they literally virtually don't run the ball.
Yeah, exactly. Ever since who's his name? The Kansas State running back was at Colorado last. Edwards, Dylan Edwards.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Yeah. Since he left, they just don't run the ball. I mean, they're 131st in the nation rushing the ball. So Colorado,
that's last place, by the way. For those who don't know, that's last place.
Yeah,
or that's either last place or second to last.
Yeah.
I can't remember how many teams there are now. I think it's
132
or 131.
There's 134 teams now, I believe.
Oh, is there 134 now? Okay.
Since they added
one of the last place.
Yeah, they added JMU last year.
Sam Houston and Kennesaw State. So yeah, 131 to 134. That makes sense. Yeah. So okay. So they're 131 of 134.
Yeah,
running the ball.
So yeah, they're not a good rushing team. Colorado's going to probably have to win this one in a shootout. We'll see how their defense is able to limit Texas Tech, but I got to go with if it's in a shootout, I got to rely on the team that has the two probably best players on the field.
You're going with Colorado?
Going with Colorado.
Because I'd argue Charles Brooks is the better NFL prospect than one of those guys. But anyways, I will say that yes, if it becomes a shootout, I guess I'm half changing my answer. If it becomes a shootout, I'm going to go with Colorado. I'm staying with Tech because I'm saying if their defense or if their run game can keep them off the field, and it becomes like half a shootout.
Yeah,
the game's not in the 40s or 50s. It's more in the 30s. I think that Tech can win.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and roll on to the next game. We got the Dogs, man, traveling to Oxford, Mississippi to take on Ole Miss at a 2:30 kick, which kind of seems odd for these two, but Bama LSU ended up getting the late slot here. Who do you got in this one, Monty? This one was kind of a toss-up for me as I was looking at it.
this is one of the this one in the game we're about to talk about after this. The game that we're talking about after this, I still don't have a pick, so that'll be a game time decision. This is one of the last ones too. It's another one of those trap games for Georgia. Traveling to Oxford to play Ole Miss. Ole Miss doesn't have one of those massive stadiums, but they have a loud stadium. And those people get drunk and crazy pretty quick.
It's all that partying in the Grove.
Yeah. They say that's the best tailgate in the country. But yeah, my questions are, can Georgia's defense slow down Ole Miss's air raid? Can they stop Jack and Dart? Can they stop Lane Kiffin? Same question on the other side. Can Ole Miss's pass game take the top off Georgia's defense? That's kind of the question here for this game. Georgia's run game is crucial. We saw that against Texas when they played Texas. They beat Texas and how effective it was. And it was like old school Georgia Bulldogs football against Texas. It was like unstoppable run game. I remember I was watching it. It brought a smile to my face watching it. And I'm not a Georgia fan. But it was like that old school, like Georgia freaking borderline blue blood. It was good to see. Herschel Walker ball.
Yeah.
But the Ole Miss D-line is a stout defensive line. I mean, that's all off season. That's what they built. That's what Lane Kiffin built. He wanted to build that D-line to become basically what Georgia's D-line was. With that being said, watching what Georgia's run game is capable of, they ranked 97th in rush yards per game in the country. And Ole Miss's run D is second in the Navy. So I think that's a difference maker in this game. Really. And then obviously Carson Beck's turnovers.
Terrible.
He needs to stop turning the ball over. If he can stop turning the ball over, I think they'll be all right. And I think you just got to think with Kirby Smart. With Kirby Smart at the helm, it's just like they're never at it. They're just, I don't know. It's Georgia, and that's the best way to put this. It's Georgia, and I can't see them dropping another game. And based on what I've said, with their, I don't think that Jackson Dart's going to have a good game. Jackson Dart is going to have a good game, but I just don't see them taking the top off fully. That's how they beat Georgia's defensive backfield if they can, because underneath they're not going to be able to do it. Georgia's defense ranks among the best in the entire country, minimizing yards after catch. So they'll have to take the top off. I just think that Georgia will be able to minimize that, and for that, I'm taking the dog.
Yeah, it's this one was a tough one for me to pick. Really, it boiled down to, because you look at Carson Beck's turnovers. I mean, he's got 11 interceptions this year. That's not playing winning football. It's a tough one for me to pick. You just saw Ole Miss drop 63 on Arkansas, and that was without Trey Harris. Still don't know if he's going to be back for this game. It's kind of a question mark.
They were talking about him being back, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see if he ends up being back. But when I was looking at it, Georgia has the best defense in this game. And I don't think Carson Beck is going to turn the ball. I don't think he's going to. He very well might do it again. And if he does, Ole Miss is going to win this football game. But if Georgia comes out and Carson Beck can just not give them the ball, and Georgia can run the ball and play efficient offense.
What I see Kirby Smart doing is come out of the gate trying to run the ball. Test this Ole Miss run defense, and if it works, keep at it. Get Carson Beck to not throw the ball.
Yeah.
But Ole Miss needs to force him to throw the ball. And if he doesn't make mistakes, I'm right there with you.
Yeah. So for this one, I think, did you end up picking Georgia?
I did. I'm picking the Dogs.
Yeah, I had to roll with the Dogs as well. I just, like you said, I just don't see them dropping 2 in a row this early on. I think Kirby Smart, even if they don't play well, I think he can get them to play well enough to win. So that's why I got to go with Georgia in this one.
They didn't drop. They didn't drop two in a row. They wouldn't be dropping two in a row. But I think I know what you meant.
I meant
I
two. I
don't
meant
see
two
that.
this year.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna say, yeah. I think I knew what you meant, but I wanted to clarify for anybody listening. Yeah. It's, he's one of the last coaches that are, like Nick Saban, where it's like they lose one, and it's man, you just can't see it. He's not gonna let him do it again, and we'll see. We could be wrong. But that's what I'm so concerned about when Georgia and Tennessee play next week. But that is a conversation for next week. This one, I'll let you start this one so I can try to make my decision. Game of the week, college game day, game of the week. Alabama travels for the rivalry game to Baton Rouge to play the Tigers of LSU. What you got?
Yeah, give me the Tigers in this one.
It is at night, by the way.
It's
at night.
It's a night game in Death Valley. Alabama has come in. I mean, they've played pretty sputtering football this year. I mean, they had the big win over Georgia, but they've also looked vulnerable in a lot of games. I mean, they went to Vanderbilt and lost. They almost lost to South Carolina. Tennessee beat them, and then they come out bump, a limping Missouri team. I think LSU will be able to score enough points, and I just don't know if the Alabama team that Kalen DeBoer is putting on the field, it doesn't remind you of the team that, the Nick Saban-esque teams that, their defense is able to travel. Because whenever you go to these environments, your defense isn't dealing with a tough environment here. Your defense can be able to, they're able to still get their calls function because the crowd is normally quiet for the other team's offense or for the home team's offense. However, I think where LSU can and will, I think they can stress out Alabama's defense. I think Garrett Nussmeier, I think he's played at a really high level this year. Even with some of the games that he has struggled in late, like the game against A&M, I think he'll be able to do enough to get the job done against Alabama. And I believe that LSU's defensive coordinator will be able to clean it up a little bit with the assistance of a home crowd and hopefully not do any of that little. I talked about it. I'm not even going to go back into it. We line the defensive line up in a straight line. We'll skip that. Well, I'm not even going to go back into that. Hopefully he leaves that crap. He threw that crap out of the playbook. But yeah, I think LSU with the home crowd, I think they're going to be able to get this one done.
Yeah. My first question was, who can outpass who in this game?
Nussmeier.
Nussmeier or Milroe. My other thing is both defenses are obviously pretty average this year for the standards.
Yeah.
For the standards. But Bama's defense recently has been coming along. LSU's has not. Man, this one's tough for me. At the same time, how LSU has been playing recently on defense and how Bama has been playing recently on defense. And the difference between the two. And both offenses are very good. It's one of those old school rivalries. Something's going to happen. There's going to be mistakes made on one of these sides, and I see it being on one side more so than the other. Going with Crimson Tide.
Ooh.
Coming into Death Valley at night, call it an upset because even though LSU's ranked behind them, I think it is an upset in that environment. Going with Alabama.
Okay. All right, we'll see. So we're different.
That's our only one. Oh no, Colorado Tech game.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had two differences this week. One of the things I was looking at is I think LSU has been able to get a little bit established with Caden Durham as he's come along, true freshman running back. I think he adds an interesting dynamic to their offense. We'll see if he can continue to come along and maybe take advantage a little bit of the home crowd and hope that they can score enough points versus versus Alabama. I don't know. It's gonna be an exciting game. I think that crowd's gonna be juiced.
We'll see if Goliath is still Goliath.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and roll on, man. Let's get our dubs and duds of the weekend. Monty, we always start off with our duds. Let's get negative. Who are we crapping on this week? Who's your dud of the week?
It's not necessarily. I guess it's more so crapping on the college football playoff committee, but it's a team that I say that it's a dud because it's a team that lost. But it's the BYU disrespect. I touched on it earlier, but it's like it's a dud because it's like you try to. So the Pac-12 got gutted, so they're no longer a power conference. But then you say Power 4, so you still include the Big 12 in that conversation. But then there's just a total lack of respect.
Yep.
For the Big 12, right? We said at the beginning of the season, most people have agreed that the Big 12 is just going to beat up on each other all week, all year, which they have been doing.
Mm-hmm.
We have seen has proven to be true, and yet BYU sits at the top at 8-0, 9-0.
I believe they're 8-0.
8-0. I didn't want to get that wrong. Didn't want to disrespect my boys in Provo. So they're 8-0 in a power conference. They're undefeated, obviously, in conference play. They have the best 2 wins in the top 10. Or at least that's what people have been saying historically, right? They have 2 top 25, let alone top 19 wins in the initial poll, and they're at number 9. They're not. I mean, they are in the playoff because they're projected to win the Big 12, so they're the 3 seed. But they're still ranked number 9. And so, yes, they got the respect to be the 3 seed in the playoff prediction.
I think they're the
which
4
is
seed.
No, Texas is 4, I'm pretty sure. But it's one of the two. They're either 3 or 4.
It should be Oregon. Oregon should be the 1 seed. Georgia should be the 2. Miami's the 3. BYU's the 4.
Then maybe I'm wrong. But either way.
Big 10, SEC, ACC.
Either way, BYU's in that top 4 seeding for the playoff because they're projected to win the conference, right?
Yep.
But at the same time, it's like, what are they doing in the actual, the top 25 ranking? It's like, I don't know. Disrespectful, my eyes. I'm sure BYU fans would agree. I'm sure that a lot of people would agree. With that being said,
my dud. So last week I had Mike Elko as my dub of the week. This week I'm going to go back on that because they just crashed off the hill. I guess they bought into the hype. I had to go with my dud of the week as A&M after they got blown out by South Carolina 44-20. South Carolina jumped on them early. A&M rallied back, and then South Carolina said, all right, that's enough of that. Ended up blowing them out of the water.
That Sellers is good, man.
Yeah.
They got their guy for a while.
Yeah, they do. And they got a really good D line, and man, it's got to be tough because A&M, they were looking at as a pretty much after last week, they were looking at going into this poll if they took care of business against South Carolina, like, hey, they're a guaranteed, maybe 7-8 seed. They're probably right up there with Tennessee. And yeah, they just kind of dropped the ball, ended up outside the top 12, not predicted to be in the playoff right now. But there's still time for them to turn it around. But yeah, after getting blown out last week, going in with all that hype, I had to go with A&M as my dud of the week. And what does South Carolina have to do to get ranked? Like, we got Mizzou at 24, but we got South Carolina not ranked.
And, well, it's because of 3 losses, right? But you can't make that argument either because Louisville just beat Clemson.
Yeah.
And they're a 3-loss team and they're ranked.
Exactly.
And that's ACC, right? So there's like, well, Mizzou's SEC, so they should be ranked low. But then you got a 3-loss ACC team. So it's like, who's got the... Yeah, I know. I'm right there with you on that one.
Yeah, anybody who's watched South Carolina and Missouri, they would know that there's not really a comparison between those two teams.
South Carolina would steamroll Mizzou.
Yeah, absolutely.
Home or away.
Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's get our winners of the week or our dubs of the week. Monty, who do you have as our dub of the week?
Yeah, I stayed in the and I forgot to mention this prior to going live, but I stayed in like the ranking round for my dub and dud.
Okay.
My dub is somebody that I don't, despite not having a bias against them, a team that I don't ever really talk about in a good light enough. Miami in the top 4. They made it down to the top 4. So right now, if this was the initial ranking in the call it the 14 playoff, they'd be in it, which is a big deal. They have continued to prove me wrong. I'm still not 100% on Miami yet, just because of the amount of points that their defense consistently gives up. But Cam Ward is playing Mahomes-esque football when it's about, when he needs to be clutch, he's clutch. And even though they've given up all these points to mediocre competition, decent competition, good competition, it always seems to go Miami's way in the end. And a lot of that is Cam Ward. And for that, Miami's in the top 4. And I think as of right now, other than BYU, I think it's well-deserved.
Yeah.
For Miami. So props to them. That's my dub of the week, Miami. Mario Cristobal, Cam Ward, and company.
Yeah, I still don't know if I'd pick them over SMU if they played in a neutral site this weekend. However, they don't.
Well, hey, hopefully they do eventually.
Yeah, we'll see. We shall see. So for my dub of the week, I kind of got a weird one for you. I gave this guy a lot of crap early on in the season after about 3 weeks into the year.
Look at us, character building.
Yeah, character building. We can realize where, hey, we may have been flawed in our logic. This one, I had to go with Billy Napier as my dub of the week. And even though he's the coach of a 4-4 Florida Gators team
they're projected to win at most 4 this year. So
yeah, and they're playing scrappy football, I guess is how you would call it. However, he's gotten a vote of confidence from his athletic director. I think a lot of the donors have said, hey, instead of doing your buyout, we're just going to give you that money for NIL, and we're going to see if you can build something in the transfer portal. So he's got a vote of confidence. Billy Napier will be the head coach of the Florida Gators next season. So I had to go with him as my dub of the week. I mean, all you can ask for as a head coach is to have some job assurance, so that way you can continue to build, continue to work on your vision. And it really says a lot, especially when you haven't had a lot of success at a program like, he struggled with at Florida recently. Hopefully just those bodes of confidence, that bodes well for recruiting classes, transfer portal, because they know that, hey, I can commit to this coach and he's still going to be there whenever I show up.
So do you think that, let me ask you, so do you think that with that George game, how they played that George game with Lagway starting up until he got hurt, do you think that kind of saved him? Even though they lost, do you think that kind of played into it?
Well, it's kind of like how I said earlier in the year, whenever I was like, hey, as good as Graham Mertz is or whatever, you got to play DJ Lagway from here on out to sell your future as a team. Show his potential, show his flashes.
Well, and he seemingly panned out.
Exactly.
At least this year.
Exactly. And he has, and I think that's part of what saved his career or saved his coaching job is that, hey, they're like, well, DJ Lagway likes this guy. We like what we saw from DJ Lagway with another off season. And, I think we can be really good. They saw him play competitive against Georgia. So that's the level that Florida wants to be at. Florida's fans want to be at. And they're like, hey, he's that close. If we just give him some NIL money, he could supplement it in the transfer portal and we could be really good next year. I think I 100% agree that is probably what saved his job is how competitive they were with DJ Lagway at quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I would have to agree. I was a skeptic early on about taking Graham Mertz out and putting the true freshman kind of as a Hail Mary, for lack of a better term. But obviously, like I said, I agree that it seemingly panned out and it seemingly worked. They have been playing better. I mean, for what this year is and the schedule that they've had, they've played better than what a lot of people thought. So, yeah, 4-4 is way better than I thought that they were going to be after 8 games. And I feel like most people are probably in the same boat. So, yeah, I mean, I think giving him one more, I would say that it's a pretty warm seat he's sitting on next year, Billy Napier.
Yeah.
But as right now, I mean, they said they're rolling with him, and I think at the end of the day, I can't speak with Florida fans, but at the end of the day, I think that's a pretty good call for now, with how they've with more or less overachieved this year from America's expectations for Florida football.
Exactly. Well, y'all, that's going to wrap it up for another episode of the Monty and Murdy College Football. Monty, you got anything you want to say on the outro of the show here?
No, again, thanks for everyone listening. Season blown by.
Yeah,
going into week 11, exciting stuff, and rest in peace, Ben Herbstreit.
Yeah, R.I.P. Ben Herbstreit. Man, thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of the Monty and Murdy College Football Show. As always, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us wherever you listen to the podcast, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. Follow our channels on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. We got channels everywhere. Follow us, engage with us. Let us know if y'all have any questions, anything y'all want us to address. And until next time, we'll catch y'all. Peace.